Back to the Leadership Election Debate 2018. We are now ready for Imperial College Union presidential candidates. So we have three candidates in the room. We have Michael, Robert and Dimitrii. We also have some candidates who cannot be with us tonight. They are Balthazar Branwell, Andrew Duckworth, Oliver Duffy, Mohammed Al-Khatib, Dex Osman, Max Stocker and Morris Yap. So we'll just wait a bit to make sure those candidates who cannot be here have the chance to participate and recognise their names. What the process is now is we'll ask each candidate to speak for 90 seconds. After those candidates have spoken, they will be asked questions, the same question each time to the candidates, and they will respond with a 30-second gap. Are you ready, candidates, to kind of go ahead? Make sure you say your name into the microphone so everyone knows who you are. So we'll start to go with the first candidate, Michael.
Hello, my name is Michael Edwards and I'm running to be your next Imperial College Union President. I feel that over my time at Imperial College London, the union has started to lose its way in its effort to become more professional and in its efforts to become more driven by its projects and more driven by professional governance. I believe it's lost touch with the fact that it is ultimately a representative organisation that stands for its students and stands to develop the personal and professional. It stands to develop its members through professional development. Leave that. So I personally think that the union, as it stands, is not an effective organisation, and I believe that I'm the candidate to change that. I stand to put pressure on college to reverse changes to the student experience, such as the changes to campus services and other student provisions, such as the changes to the St Mary's Pool. I stand to increase the level of student voice on major college boards and projects, such as College Council, because I believe that the current paradigm that we have with college, we exist as a token stakeholder and where we should be very much a key stakeholder. And I also stand to make this union volunteer-driven and a bottom-up organisation. I believe that the correct way to run this organisation is through a grassroots method. I believe that you as students and the representatives that you are electing this week deserve to have a greater say in the long-term future and in the larger projects that Imperial College Union is running. I hope you vote for me, and I thank you for your consideration.
Time.
Hi, so my name's Rob Tomkies, and I want to be your next union president. I think it's important that we ensure the union guarantees the best student experience possible. It's great that we've got students that are willing to engage in big picture debates, but actually I've found recently things have become bureaucratic. We've got very broad big picture images. And actually I found that we've forgotten what the key message is, that we're here to represent students and that we need to make sure that the everyday things work. I want to use my experience as RSM president, and actually just my experience as a student in general, as a member of a club, to make sure that we deal with the things that really matter. The things that, can I get dinner at 3 in the morning? Can I actually sit and work at a computer? Can I get a minibus to my club? I want to ensure that instead of aiming at these huge, big plans that realistically aren't attainable, we make sure that every day what we work for is something that we can achieve, something that's attainable and makes a difference to students as a whole. Remember, if you rate my ideas, you rate my experience, rate Rob.
Hello, so my name is Dimitrii Usynin, and my campaign starts with the phrase, "Think what would Donald Trump say? Constantine, ghostwriter and campaign manager." The reason I'm sitting here even, wearing this brilliant costume is because I am the unicorn of change that you need. I am the person who's going to drain the swamp of incompetence within the ICU. People here have forgotten what it feels like to consider other students' opinions, to actually think about what people need, what people want. Who voted for replacing Stella with Bud Light? I don't remember having my vote in there. Who voted for a blocked library door? Oh wait, not me either. What other things can I think of? Who voted for a lack of consideration of student body when it comes to making big decisions? Opening times of JCR, prices on beer and union, or any other things that you can think of. This is exactly what people have not been talking about. They've been making decisions behind the wall, and we had nothing to do with it. I am here to change things. I am here as your potential union president, and as ridiculous as it sounds, I am here to get rid of the people who were sitting there for a long time, not willing to make any changes whatsoever. Drops the mic.
Shall I? There you go.
No, so it's fine with Michael. Of course. Thank you very much for that. So we'll now start with some questions. We'll start with the first question with Dimitrii, and then Rob, then Michael. What is the biggest challenge facing Imperial College Union, and how would you fix it?
The biggest challenge that I see is the way people collect opinions. So right now, the reason the student body is underrepresented is because we don't know how to get their votes. It's one thing where you get the opinion of many people and take it as the main one. It's a completely other thing where you go for a different approach, where you take the sampled opinions and try to incorporate that into your implementation of ideas. Which one is the better one? I prefer the latter, but it's up to the people to decide how things should be run in the long term.
Thank you very much.
I'm a big believer that actually pretty much most things can be fixed with money. I don't think at the moment we have the funding that we need. I don't think we have the sort of pots for things like tours. I don't think clubs and societies get the money they need. I don't think we fund and restore things like storage space enough. How do we fix that? So I put forward a couple of ideas actually. Things like a centralised sponsorship service. I think an act to effectively mean that everything's better funded with a union and your clubs and societies as a whole. And also things such as looking to lobby college.
Thank you.
So my answer to that would be twofold. The challenges that the union faces are communication and consultation. Students do not know what the union is doing for them, and I think that the SABs need to be spending more time writing blogs and writing in Felix to actually say what the union is doing to deliver for them. And also I think that sabbatical officers and the staff team also need to be engaging more with the student volunteers. The student volunteers you're electing this week to actually have their meaningful input in their projects and the projects that are going on in college.
Time, kind of, please. Before we go to the next question, is there anyone who would like to rebut anything between three that I just said? Nope. Fantastic. We'll go on to the next question. The next question, we'll start with Robert, and then we'll go with Michael and then Dimitrii. How would you influence college decision making?
I think a large part of that is actually turning up to the meetings and standing for what you want. Often it's quite easy to be pushed over when you're outnumbered or if something isn't brought up directly in conversation. I think it's really important that when you're attending these meetings and starting campaigns, actually you really push for what you stand for, even if it's not on the conversation table, so that it's on everybody's mind, it's on the minutes, and you can actually push for the larger body to stand with you as well.
From my perspective as a constituent union president, I lead the Royal College of Science Union, there are many college boards and college projects that I do not take part in because the college and the union, more loosely, believe that students are a token stakeholder in college projects and boards. How I would pressure college to take on board the student voice is to increase our attendance and to increase our actual our invite to these boards, to ensure that student voice is heard and to ensure that we are a key stakeholder in the decisions that are made.
Time, candidate, please.
Unlike the other candidates, I actually don't believe in meetings because from attending all of them, I notice that nothing is happening. So my idea would be to organise either mass strikes, which would be great, seeing what the UCU has been doing with the lecturer pensions cuts, or the other thing would be mass spammings of people, just so they're aware of things that they can do, the things that they should do, the things that will benefit them in the long run. The main idea is to make as many people aware as possible, not just the ones who are attending a specific meeting.
Thank you very much. The next question will start with Michael.
Can I rebut?
Yeah,
Of course you can. So you have 30 seconds to rebut, and we'll give everyone a chance to...
I'm honestly going to need that one. I'm going to hand back to Dimitrii. Which meetings have you attended in your capacity as a member of the union, if I might ask?
I attended the welfare representative meetings, so it's a new scheme, so that there isn't much that we have at the moment to do. But from all the changes that we tried to push, absolutely nothing happened. From all the feedback that we tried to collect and put into the meetings, absolutely nothing out of it.
Is that in your department? Or is it in your
well, sorry, one kind of at a time, please. Sorry, Dimitrii still got the microphone.
Yeah, so answering the second question, this is within the welfare representation network that I've encountered myself, both within the department and outside as well.
Okay.
Time candidate, please. Would Robert like to respond to the two?
I'd actually like to rebut against Michael's point of increasing to a 50% representation on all college boards. I think we've seen from Union Council at the moment that having a lot of people with a lot of opinions in one place does not necessarily work when it comes to conversations. What we need actually is a focused group of people with representative points of view and one person to present them, not just people flooding a room with no voice actually being heard.
Thank you very much. Are we all okay with the answers? Does anyone want to speak again about that question?
No, that's an interesting opinion. But
Great, fantastic. The next question is, how will you lead the How will you lead the officer trustee team effectively? And we'll start with Robert. No, we'll start with Michael. Michael first, and then Dimitrii, then Robert.
So I've been a constituent union president this year. I've led the Royal College of Science Union, and that's involved leading a committee of 19 people, which is actually 25 with the expansion due to the Wellbeing Rep Network. I believe that working alongside the sabbatical team will be quite a similar job, and honestly, I think it's just a matter of making sure that everybody has their opinion heard and everybody has their say, and that at the end of the day we're all happy with the direction the union is going.
Thank you very much.
It's great that we have a specific team devoted to dealing with those issues, but what I believe is rather than just having the trustees talking about things, we need to consider the bigger picture. We need to make sure every single one of them is aware entirely of what the students that they're responsible for are thinking about, what they need, what they want. Things like organising clubs at specific times, sports nights. There are different people who should be devoted to those different activities, and not only they should be able to communicate their ideas well, they also need to be aware of whose ideas they represent.
Thank you very much.
In my experience as RSMU president this year, what makes an actually good leader in terms of a committee isn't someone that's necessarily striving to be the bold leader themselves, but someone that enables their deputies to tackle the specific issues that they have and their main projects, so to speak. My aim will be to support my deputies so that actually their focused jobs are they're as able to do as possible and not having to deal with certain policies on the broader issues.
Thank you very much. Would anyone like to rebut anyone what they've said? Talk about any of that question further? Nope. Fantastic. The next question will be then, how will you engage the membership more effectively, including postgraduates and underrepresented communities? So we'll start with Dimitrii, then Robert, and Mike.
Actually, this is a very relevant question to my society, DocSoc, because we have quite a number of people in second years and above who don't really participate. So the way we deal with it is we try to organise massive things which incorporate all the years rather than trying to target specific freshers or specific second years. We try to get all the people together that they have things to discuss, they have things to work on together. They don't try to separate themselves out from different groups. So we are trying to tackle the issue on its own rather than trying to separate them out and try to collaborate people together.
Thank you very much.
So actually we tried to tackle these issues in the RSM this year, resulting in Bottle Match, which had a 70% increase in attendance compared to normal. I really believe in the model concerning postgrads, that actually they should be social members of the constituent unions. I thoroughly believe, and it's the way in the RSM at the moment, that whilst maybe academically they have different interests, which GSU represents, but they should really be able to join the socials and the DEPSOCs that we currently have. In terms of the wider student body, I think it's important that we make events as inclusive as possible, providing
Candidate, please.
I would say in terms of engaging the wider student body, we actually need to be talking about what we're doing. We need to actually be talking about the projects that we have influence on, and we actually need to be good at having conversations with the student body about the impact that we're having on their student experience. With regards to postgrads, I have made the case to expand constituent union membership in a more radical capacity to what Rob has just outlined, to ensure that faculty unions are actually feeding into the personal and professional development of their postgraduate students as well.
Please.
This yours.
Fantastic. Does anyone want to comment on anyone else's points in the last round? No, fantastic. Next question, Rob will start, Michael second, Dimitrii third. How will you ensure the union remains financially strong?
So I've actually mentioned this briefly before, the idea of centralised sponsorship support. I think that whilst I've said I would really like to do a catering review and increase the services we provide to students, actually that shouldn't be at the sacrificing of the financial stability of things. So I think our bars should be profitable, and they are, but also the fact that if we've got a centralised sponsorship support, we're enabling not just our clubs to be better funded on their own, but actually the union to attain or act as a syndicate in the sponsorship way, enabling to attain these
Time,
funds so
candidate,
that
please.
it's not an issue.
Time.
In terms of financial stability, my perspective on this would be that we need to be looking at the services that we're providing and making sure that they are inspiring, to ensure that we're and inclusive and diverse, to ensure that we're attracting the maximum number of students who will in turn provide us with the revenue to run our amazing operations. With regards to the bars, I hope to introduce a Union Ents committee which will bring together all of the stakeholders running events in 568 and all of our other bar spaces to ensure that we have a more diverse and inclusive
Time,
entertainment
candidate, please.
schedule.
Well, there are many things that I want to say about this, but the first one is the current committee is totally incompetent in trying to divert their money. So from what we've seen in a finance stock, there are thousands of pounds going to nowhere, and no one is really sure exactly what's happening with them, and we need to tackle this. We don't need to devote the money to specific societies. We need to have a bunch of sponsors like DocSoc does in order to be able to fairly distribute the money towards societies that they would feel would benefit the most. Not only the richest ones, but also the ones that have slightly smaller budgets, so they can.
Time, candidate, please.
Fair.
Time. Right, fantastic. Do you guys want to comment on anyone else's answers?
No, I'm good.
No.
Great, fantastic. The next question will be Michael, Dimitrii, Rob. What new things would you do to ensure members are fully aware of what the union is and what it is doing?
I think the key way that we can, I'm not sure if there's anything we can be doing that's new. I just think we need to be basically playing with the toys that we have and using them in a more effective capacity. So whether that's through the welcome speeches we do to all freshers, or whether that we could actually expand that to have a refresher talk with later years, we could more effectively engage with Felix and have sabbatical columns. We could actually write blogs on a more regular basis to ensure that members are engaged with our activities and know what is
Time,
going on.
candidate, please.
I actually quite like one of the career service ideas where they encourage graduates to support and promote their own experiences, their own services within freshers, within the departments themselves. So I think it would be a good idea to try to encourage as many people who've already graduated from Imperial College Union to share their experiences, so they have not only something to share and something to give to people who haven't experienced all this, but they are also seen as the trustworthy body who've been through all of this and they know exactly what they're trying to do.
Brilliant, thank you.
So something that I've seen actually beginning to be implemented this year, but probably should be done more in future, is more of a grassroots approach. It's very difficult to communicate with several thousand people at one time, but if you approach the constituent unions and the smaller societies and use them to communicate to their individual bodies, which do actually have a larger engagement already, I think through working a lot closer with them, we'll be able to target a much higher group of people and effectively increase it without actually too much effort in terms of trying to come up with new posts, new
Time,
blogs,
candidate,
things like
please. Brilliant. Anyone wanted?
that. No.
No, fantastic. So the next one is Dimitrii, Rob, Michael. What are your proposals in terms of national debate relating to students, such as fees and grants?
I believe that fees are growing irresponsibly. So the fact that we went from 9k to 9.25k is outrageous, and something needs to be done about that, both on behalf of the ICU and the governing bodies of Imperial College itself. This is completely unacceptable that the fees are raising for all students. Internationals are suffering the most because the fact that they have to pay 20k plus per year, and the college is aware of it. The college is not doing anything about it. We need to hold them accountable for those changes.
I think that fees will continue to go up. What we need to do as a union is ensure that things such as the college bursary scheme for those that can't afford them at the moment continues and doesn't get cancelled or reduced, which is something that's currently on the cards. I also think, to be honest, that whilst we need to support our students in this fact, make sure those things are there for them to get their support, in terms of actually lobbying to reduce it, we've got to pick our battles. I think that we need to support what's happening rather than sit there and spend our time lobbying the government for things that we can't
Time
necessarily
candidate,
change.
please.
So, Imperial College Union is not part of the National Union of Students, and this is something that I've explicitly outlined in my platform, actually. I don't see the union standing up for itself in national and even to a lesser extent local debates, where students are very much going to be directly affected. With the new Office for Students that's been introduced this year, or being introduced this year, I think we have a very valuable opportunity to have our voice heard on a national stage alongside the NUS, which has a much larger voice, and we should
Time
really be in
candidate,
those
please.
discussions.
Time candidate, please. Thank you very much. Is that finished? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Anyone want to chat about anything we discussed? Anyone want to raise any points that anyone else has?
Actually.
Yep.
Honestly, I believe that sitting on the fence when we're talking about national issues, such as tuition fees, is quite a harmful thing to do, and as a union we should be taking a much stronger stance. For example, we've taken stances on the UCU strikes. A couple of years ago, Union Council also took stances on the changes to the junior doctors' contracts, and it's something that I think that the union and its representative body should be doing on behalf of students more. Sitting on the fence is not the correct thing to do.
Thank you. We'll go to Dimitrii with the
So, Imperial College is well known as one of the richest universities in England, maybe even in the world. We don't currently know where all the money is going with all the things that's happening to the pensions, all that's happening to the raising tuition fees and people not doing anything about it, all that's happening with raising prices within the JCR and other places. And I feel like we need to start investigating on how the money is formed, how the budget is formed. We need to make people aware where the money is coming from, how it's being used, so they can make their own judgment of whether certain things are fair or not fair to them and to the other students in the
time candidate, please.
I think it's great that we're discussing actually things like taking stances on the UCU, but my view is that at the end of the day, that's taking several hours of staff and sad time to actually form these opinions, to have these debates. We should really be concerned about actually the everyday lives of students. People don't, 1 in 10 maybe cares about certain matters, but actually, if we've got a study space, if we can eat, that's what really is important to the student body.
Fantastic. That's really interesting. Let's go for another round of that. So, do you want to start with Michael? Any more discussions on the national body? And then we can go to Dimitrii, then Rob again.
I've honestly got nothing much to add, I'm honest.
Okay. Dimitrii, Rob?
I have a quick one, really. So one of the points I wrote in my manifesto, which might sound ridiculous to you, is replacing plastic aid metric with Wetherspoons. Although, as ridiculous as it sounds as an idea altogether, we can do something similar. We can hire managers who are completely capable of running things, people who know what they're doing, people who are competent and know exactly what's meant to be done. Whereas now we have a lot of students running things like plastic aid metric. So what we need to do is hire professionals to do their job, so the college is running smoother than it is currently.
Thank you very much. Michael, sorry.
Just to counter the unicorn, actually. So, I mean, it's great we're hiring professionals, but actually what we found at the moment is that things like college catering, where we do hire professionals, are becoming increasingly more expensive. We don't need to be hiring more professionals that are going to put fees on renting rooms, on extra staff costs. What we need to be looking at is, okay, maybe it is more expensive to have professionals, maybe it's more expensive with college catering. We need to look at, if we bring that in-house, what can the union provide? How can we actually provide an offering based on student services that is viable
Time
to run?
candidate,
The
please.
discussion rather
Time.
changed to my take.
We gave you the opportunity to...
No, the discussion point changed.
That's fine, but we did give you the opportunity to speak at the very beginning.
I mean, that's fine.
Just to clarify, the entire commercial services team is made up of professional staff, drawn from the commercial sector, so that the union has full-time 60+ staff who are all drawn from the professional sector. So just wanted to clarify and correct that point that was made. Fantastic. Are we ready for the next question?
Sure.
Yeah.
Great. How would you tackle the widespread issue of poor mental well-being and imperial students? Who went first last time?
I think it's Dimitrii now.
Yeah.
Dimitrii, Rob, Michael.
So this is one of the things that we've been trying to tackle for a long time in the welfare department. So the issue is not that people are not aware of things; they're totally aware. Everyone knows about campaigns running. Everyone knows about certain things being done. The problem is people are too shy to engage in them. And what I believe we could do is, rather than having open meetings where people are getting asked, please raise your hand if you believe this, we should have very closed ones where people can remain slightly more anonymous, so they're not subjected to public's opinion, and they can actually propose the ideas of their own without being
Time, candidate, please.
I think the main issue with welfare, so our discussions have gone on about providing welfare and mental health training. I think that actually that puts too much stress and problems towards the students involved in case that the training isn't proper or isn't thorough enough in the way that a counselling service should be. I think what we should be doing is increasing the accessibility of things such as our advice centre, which at the moment isn't open on a Wednesday when most students are free. And also for non-South Kent students, we're increasingly heading away from South Kensington, so we should be offering things such as Skype appointments so that they can get the advice that they need.
Candidate, please.
I think there is a twofold approach to this. I think we need to continue work in campaigns to destigmatise the discussions that are had around mental health and mental well-being, to ensure that people feel welcome and people feel free to come forward and say that they're suffering from poor mental health. And I think we need to continue pressure on college to reallocate some of the space that's being vacated in the chemistry building, not to interdisciplinary lab space, which will poorly be used, but to actually provide more space for the counselling service, which is
Time,
dialed into
candidate, please. Just for we've done the right order. We've done it all. Just to clarify, advice centre is not open on a Wednesday. That's because you're usually accompanying students to hearings, amongst other things. So while it may not seem open and available, it is actually defending students and advising students at the moment. Fantastic. Rob next. It's Rob, Michael, Dimitrii. What skills and experience do you bring to this role?
I think in terms of pure experience, I've been involved in committees pretty much from the word go. At the end of my first year, I ran for RSMU committees. I've been part of sports clubs and societies, and I'm now currently RSMU president. I think that probably the main skill that I necessarily have is actually I've just stayed grounded. In terms of, sure you can become involved in union life, but effectively you still need to stay in touch with the student body, which is something I think is really important in effectively the presidential role of directing where the SABs are going.
Time, candidate, please.
So, I've been an active member of our community from the word go, as Rob says. I was an active volunteer in my first year. I've been a hall senior at Wilson House for 3 years now. I'm the senior. And that's provided me with the opportunity to build communities around a hall environment. I've been a dedicated clubs volunteer. I've led the RCSU as honorary secretary and president, and I think that I bring a great deal of experience and skill to the role.
Time, candidate, please.
I'll probably touch things not only at Imperial but outside as well. So I've been active part of DocSoc and the boat club here. Outside of Imperial, I have some slightly interesting experiences in the Royal Navy, where I was second in command of my section, which sort of helps me to build up from the bottom and know exactly what people are thinking of, what people are feeling like, all the way to the top to know how to instruct them what to do well and how to do things well. And then on top of that, I was part of the wellbeing representation, so I know exactly what people are concerned about and what their hidden worries are.
Time, candidate, please. Fantastic. Does anyone want to speak about any of the things that we just talked about last round?
I almost feel it would be inappropriate.
No worries. What is your view on various traditions with Imperial, such as chants, mascots, vehicles, and tie clubs? Start with.
So my view at the moment, I've performed a complete cultural review of the RSM. My view is very much that although constituent unions traditionally have been said that one of their key aims is to preserve tradition, I don't think that's the case. I think it should be to preserve identity and history. So chants, I think that it's very much our role to evolve what we view as our culture and keep that sense of identity. So chants, if they're non-acceptable, if they're non-inclusive, they should be changed with the times. We shouldn't just be looking to remove things, we should be looking to effectively move them
Time,
forward.
candidate, please.
It's an interesting question. So, on mascotry, you may have seen that we were quite heavily involved in mascotry earlier this year. It was quite a flurry. I personally agree a lot with Rob, and I do congratulate him for the cultural review that he's carried out. However, I do believe that the continued existence of Thai clubs and all they represent is quite toxic, and it's something that we need to address. We need to bring them on side and ensure that, as Rob says, that they are moving with the times and accepting that we're not living in the 1970s anymore.
Candidate, please.
So things like mascots includes public opinion. We can't just keep things the way they are. We need to consult the current members of the union because it's relevant to them what kind of mascot they have at the moment. We can't just. It's good that we keep a tradition going, but we can't just stick to something which was relevant 100 years ago and no longer is. So I agree with the two previous speakers that we do need to change things, but we need to make them student driven. We need to make sure the students are deciding what to go with. And slightly biased opinion, I think it should be a unicorn.
Thank you very much. That was a really interesting debate. So I'm going to give every candidate another 30 seconds on topics of mascots, chants, vehicles and Thai clubs. So, Rob.
Yeah, an extra 30 seconds. So, I mean, obviously I like the idea of a unicorn as a mascot. One of my policies was to have a sport imperial referendum, so that appeals to me. In terms of things like, should we say, mascotry, I think actually we are seeing at the moment a positive change. I think that things are changing. I think people are reviewing, but I don't think it's a sudden one-year job. We have traditionally we have a 4-year process of people going through, and actually it takes from a person's experience of freshers to the experience of the end,
please,
for that to change.
I actually missed in your initial statement that you talked about the vehicles, and I personally think that the motor clubs are some of our most dedicated volunteers because they have to spend a great deal of time maintaining these rather old vehicles, some of which aren't currently operational. I mean, big shout out to the RCS Motor Club for actually keeping just operational. But yeah, keep moving with the times.
Time candidate, please.
There isn't much that I want to add. The only thing is, rather than having one centralised mascot, we might want to consider things such as student unions having their own ones. So we don't want to go too deep down with having every single club in society have their own one. No, we need to create a collaboration of, let's say, RCSU mascot. We need to create things which are distinguishable from each other, but then at the same time don't overcomplicate the existing system and allow for more freedom of choice. But don't make you spread out thinking what do I want to choose.
Right. We happy with that, or do we want to continue that discussion?
Over the moon.
Burn? No? Yes?
Yeah,
I'm
I'm happy.
Fantastic. Michael, Dimitrii, Rob, the question will be, this is not a diverse set of candidates in front of us. How will you reflect the membership? Sorry, this is not a diverse set of candidates reflective of our membership. Long-standing challenge for Imperial College Union as a whole. How do you support the liberation and community officers?
It's a really interesting question, and it's something that has come up this year through the work of the liberation officers, and in particular my friend Ariana Sada Hashemi. I personally believe that the liberation officers are not provided with the support that they require to actually reach out to their communities, and we need to provide them with the resources that the education and welfare team have. And we also, in terms of diversity of candidates, we also need to be communicating. We need to be showing that our volunteer base is that diverse, and we actually need to be showing
Time
that.
candidate, please.
There you go.
Right, so amongst many things, what I feel is the right thing to do is try not to diversify things even more. So it's great that we are aware of the issues that there are certain minorities which might be underrepresented, but instead of trying to separate them out and saying, okay, you guys are underrepresented, we need to try to incorporate it in such a way that everyone feels included in one big community. We don't want to overstress things on certain things, so they feel even more separated out, even more outside of the circle of other people. I feel like everyone has to be included within one.
Time candidate, please.
I think I'll probably take two approaches to this. Firstly, as a president, it's our job to lobby college on college-wide boards, and so we need to be actually pressuring college to tackle things such as recently we're becoming one of the most economically unequal universities in the world, and that's entirely down to admissions rather than anything else. But also in terms of our liberation officers, we need to ensure that they're able to represent themselves, provide them with the training, make sure that the funding for campaigns is more accessible so that they're aware and their groups are aware of it. And also we need to be working closely with them to be giving them some time.
Candidate, please. Fantastic. That's back to the beginning. Next question, so it'll be Dimitrii, Rob, Michael. If you could ask the other presidential candidates one question, what would it be? And then we'll go around to the next round and answer those questions.
Well,
before you begin, not specific. I want it as the whole number of candidates, not specifically for a question into one candidate. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So we'll start now, Dimitrii.
Do you believe that the current ICU committee is incompetent, and if so, how would you change it, and who specifically would you replace at this point in time?
Out of interest, am I meant to answer that, or am I
No,
just
so
asking a question?
you two answer that question, and then you two can answer the next questions, yeah?
Okay, well, I think there are 3 or 4 questions in that. Do I believe the ICU committee at the moment is incompetent? No, I don't. I think they're stretched. I think that there is only so many things that a group of 4 or 5 people can do. What they need to do is actually be able to work with the wider imperial body as a whole and not try and take on so many things personally. After that, what would I change and why, was it?
Yeah.
What would I change? Okay, so I've touched on it there. I think we need to effectively work with our constituent unions and our volunteers a lot more closely.
Time candidate, please.
I think, well, my answer to that question is very similar to Rob's. I would say that the sabbatical team and the way that Imperial College Union is run at the moment it's an incredibly centralised structure with all of the power currently residing within the Office of Trustee team and those who have trustee positions, so Student Trustee Council Chair. I think that, as Rob does, we need to start engaging our constituent union volunteers, we need to be engaging our management groups, our clubs, and even our lay membership, so that's you, the
Time
students.
candidate, please. So we've answered both questions from Dimitrii. Rob, it's your turn to ask a question, and these two can answer it.
So the union at the moment has an image of being increasingly bureaucratic, with people spending a lot of time looking at fine details of policy, looking at the names of certain things, and looking at even things recently such as why is Union Council not in the dining hall? How would you tackle the issue of matters coming up that the wider student body, apart from people involved in council at the moment, really care about?
It's a really good question, Rob. I think that we need to have we do need to have a deep look at how our representative and democratic structures work for students. I think that we need to be communicating what council is. We need to be communicating how to engage with it to our lay membership, and we also do need to be ensuring that our representatives, the representatives you're electing this week, are actually engaged with the council and its subcommittees to ensure that they are bringing the business that you need to see, and to ensure that we are actually discussing the issues that matter.
Thank you very much.
I certainly do agree that we need to make sure that we know exactly which things matter and which don't. But in order to achieve that better, I believe we need to find some impartial body, maybe from outside of Imperial. So the current trustee chair is meant to be impartial, but we don't actually know because the person is coming from Imperial, so he might have some unconscious bias towards certain things. So what I believe would be a right thing to do is to invite someone over, like we did for the returning officer, who is completely impartial, who has nothing to do with Imperial, but who will make an unbiased judgment.
Time candidate, please. Just for the correction there, the chair of the trustee board is impartial, just to make that clarity. It was Michael's question now, isn't it? After Michael's question, we will ask some more questions.
I don't honestly. I can think of. What do you think of the current election timetable? Has it been a success, or do you think we need to go back to the way that we've done things in previous years?
So if we're talking about timetable in specific, I think this is a lot better than it was last year, because people are not overstressed with their campaigning. They don't sacrifice their degrees in order to become a trustee. But on the other hand, the way the elections are run, this year is slightly more worrying than the other ones. There are a lot more cases of corruption, there are a lot more cases of violating the rules. But I believe that the entire timing is a lot better this year, because we don't overwork people who we want to become our representatives.
Thank you very much. And just to clarify, there are no issues of corruption at the union in election team.
My views on the timetable. I think that it is good that we're reducing the campaign period. I think that's very much a positive thing because it is less stressful for candidates. What I don't agree with is the fact that we don't have a campaign period before voting opens. We saw this year that yes, the spike is reduced at the beginning of voting, but actually there is still that spike there, which means that the vast majority of votes are going through without anyone actually really looking at what's campaigning. People are still just voting on who's the biggest, shall we quit, BNOC. I think that should change.
Please. Thank you very much. Just to clarify, the election committee has dealt with a lot of rule breaks, and we are dealing with that in a confidential matter. Whether they have been communicated out to the student body, that is fine. However, we have dealt with a number of issues throughout the time. I'm going to ask all candidates for the next questions. Do you want more time? 60 seconds or is 30 seconds? What do you guys want to do?
30 seconds is fine.
30 seconds, fine. Fine. Great.
Yeah, really not fast.
Great, we'll do 30 seconds. If elected, we did Michael first last time, didn't we? Yep.
It was Dimitrii's question.
Dimitrii's question, so it's Rob first this time. If elected, how would you make sure you and your team are not also stretched? What would you do differently?
It's a very good question. I think inherently, if you're paying someone to do a job, you should be expecting them to work at the limit of what they do. I think that actually, to be honest, splitting up work, being able to give it out to your team around you and have them actually give out their work as well. Again, I'm going to go back to this sort of ground-up approach. We need to effectively look at building from working with our volunteers and ensuring that the work that we need to be doing is specifically the stuff that a SAB is needed for, rather than just
please.
volunteer.
Yeah, I feel like I need to. I'm kind of going in circles now, but I think it's now it's this combination of this centralised power within the sabbatical team and feeling quite stretched in that, but not using the volunteers around them to actually affect the change that they want to see and the change that the volunteers that have been elected want to see. I personally think that a grassroots use of volunteer resources would be a more effective way to ensure that SAB teams do not get stretched.
Thank you very much.
I'd agree with both of these speakers. So the one thing I would want to stress is it's not so much about you doing things on your own specifically. It's about you being able and aware of how to delegate things in such a way that you maximise the output. It's great that you are a very good president. It's not so great if you don't know who to advise on things you're not particularly sure about, and this is something that I would be very keen to do, to concern the opinion of the other people who are clearly more confident in certain aspects than I am.
Something Theresa May moment.
Yes. Sorry about that. Thank you very much. Everyone answered that question. Great. Last question. Two last questions for you guys, and then we're done. So Dimitrii first, Rob, Michael. Should the officer trustee roles be reformed or changed?
Currently, I don't see that many things that should be changed, maybe except for the start dates, because a lot of people are busy with their internships and work placements, and the current start date of the 1st of August is not particularly great for those people. So if there was one thing that I need to stress, that would probably be to figure out that the timing works not only for the students to get the best out of the trustee, but for the trustee not to fail their career path.
I think my answer to that depends on the meaning of should the officer trustee roles be changed. If you're talking about changing completely someone focusing on finance and services, someone focusing on clubs and societies, I think the way that's categorised up, at least that portion of the union, works fairly well. What I think should actually be changed is the extent that each of those manages, what they specifically do and how they do it. It's not necessarily what they're doing that's an issue, it's just the inefficiency in the processes of what they're doing.
Yeah, I'd largely agree with Rob. I mean, I've sat on council for 3 years, and for 2 of those 3 years, we've had role reviews for the Deputy President Finance and Services, because the current role holder or some functionary in Bike Quad thinks that the role needs some significant change because it's just not reaching its potential. And yes, I think that roles need to be looked at in terms of what they're delivering and what they're expected to actually provide.
Time, candidate, please.
That's yours.
Final question is, on 1st of August 2019, what would you like to say you have achieved?
It's Rob first, I believe.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rob. Yeah. Rob, Michael, Dimitri.
First of my... I think that I would like to say that I've achieved every single one of the points in my manifesto, which is too broad to go over now. But B, I would like to say that actually the union has communicated, the student engagement in what's going on has gone up. We're more inclusive, and effectively we can sit there and go, out of all the unions in the United Kingdom, we are the ones that best represents the needs of our students.
Great.
To my successor, I would like to hand over a union that is embarking on the long road to change, to actually re-engaging with its grassroots, reiterating the importance of actually listening to the representatives that you elect, and also engaging its volunteers more in the long-term running of the organisation over the increasing corporatisation that is leading us to ascribe more value to statistics than actual meaningful engagement.
From looking at my manifesto, I'll be happy to achieve at least one of the points that I mentioned, maybe the Butterspoons, because that seems to be the most feasible one. But what I would like to say when I hand the power to someone else is, I did a bloody good job. I did something that changed the union. I did something different from people before me. Maybe it wouldn't be an improvement straight away. Maybe we're going to have some ups and downs, but it has to be in the long run something that changes things completely, and something that I will be remembered for, other than the great unicorn costume.
Thank you very much. I know I said that was a final question, but we'll start with Michael. I've got one more quick one for everyone. If you had to be, pass over, in another CU from your own, which one would you be and why?
Oh, Claudia's going to love this, but the subject that I most wish I'd taken is chemical engineering, and so I'd probably say CGCU. The level of academic representation there is exemplary due to the volunteers that they have over there, so I'd be guaranteed of having my voice heard. And also I believe that the club's provision is also quite excellent, so the student experience that I would be able to sort of experience and take part in would be much better.
I would probably go for GMC because I quite like challenging myself, and I maybe did push myself over the limit last year. But if I concentrated solely on academics, that would definitely be GMC. It's one of the most difficult degrees to obtain. It's one of the most difficult things to do in life. This is something that we'll be hugely proud of, and it's quite good to be in a close community of just about 20 people in a year group, because many of them drop out due to some failures in their exams.
I'm going to put two aspects to this. I probably would have gone civil engineering if I didn't lick rocks for a living, so I would have gone CGCU in that way. If I was going purely on an entertainment level, I think that actually the approach to welfare, the approach to events that the medics take is probably something we should try and implement on a broader scale, because medic engagement, just as a degree, is probably higher than any other that we have out there.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And that is it for the 2018 candidate debate. So thank you very much, Michael, Rob and Dimitri. Done a fantastic job, and we just wanted to say thank you very much all of our audience for watching today. And that is it from us. So thank you, good night, and see you soon.
Cheers guys.
Thank you.